Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive into the world of medical AI. It's amazing to see how fast this field is moving, isn't it?
Absolutely. It seems like every week there's a groundbreaking new paper pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Well, we've got a whole stack of those papers right here, ready to dig into.
Sounds good to me. Let's dive in.
Okay, so one that really jumped out at me was this one, FlexMo, modeling arbitrary modality combination via the flexible mixture of experts.
Ah, yes, Flexmo.
And this is by Sukwon Yoon, In-Young Choi, Ji Peng, Yangfan Wu, Jingswan Bao, Qiwen Zhang, Jia Jin, Qi Long, and Tianlong Chen. Now, this paper tackles a problem that I think anyone who's worked with medical data knows all too well, missing data.
Ugh, it's the bane of our existence, isn't it?
Seriously.
Yeah.
You're trying to build these sophisticated AI models to diagnose conditions or predict outcomes, but so often you're dealing with incomplete records.
Yeah, you might have imaging for one patient, but no genetic data. Another patient might have lab results, but their medical history is spotty. It's a nightmare.
A total nightmare. So how does FlexMo deal with this mess?
Well, imagine having like a backup system that can fill in those gaps intelligently. That's essentially what FlexMo does.
Interesting.
It creates what they call a missing modality bank. It's like having a reserve of information the AI can draw on when it encounters those missing pieces.
So it's not just throwing out those incomplete records, it's actually learning from them in a way.
Precisely. And that makes the AI models much more robust and reliable, even when they're faced with those real-world imperfections in the data.
I love that. It makes so much sense because, let's be real, in healthcare, having perfect, complete data is almost a fantasy.
Yeah, like a unicorn, you hear about it, but you never actually see it.
Exactly. Okay, so moving on, another paper that really grabbed my attention was this one, Going Beyond H&E in Oncology.
Yeah.
How do histopathology foundation models perform for multi-stain IHC and immunology?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, this was led by Amaya Gallagher-Syed, along with Elena Pontarini, Miles J. Lewis, Michael R. Barnes, and Gregory Slabau. And this paper actually challenges a pretty big assumption we often make about AI in medicine.
Which is?
That if you train an AI model on, say, cancer images, it can easily be applied to other areas of medicine, like autoimmune diseases.
Right, because the logic is, if it can spot cancer, surely it can spot other abnormalities.
Exactly. But what they found was pretty surprising.
Tell me more.
So they focused on two tasks, rheumatoid arthritis subtyping and Sjogren's disease detection. Both of these involve analyzing what's called multi-stain immunohistochemistry images.
IHC, yeah.
Thank you.
So these are basically microscopic images of tissue that have been stained with different dyes to highlight specific features.
Right, very specialized type of medical imaging. What they found was that sometimes models pre-trained on ImageNet, which is this massive data set of general images like cats and dogs and whatnot.
Right, not specifically medical.
Exactly. Those models sometimes performed as well or even better than models specifically trained on cancer histopathology.
Really? That's fascinating. So it's almost like having that broader visual knowledge base was more helpful than being a specialist in cancer images alone.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Maybe we're overfitting these AI models to very specific diseases, and we need to think more about giving them a broader medical education, so to speak.
I like that, a medical education for AI. It's like, instead of training a dermatologist, we need to train a general practitioner first.
Exactly. Now, since we're talking about medical expertise, let's move on to a paper that really dives into the world of medical decision-making. This one is called MD Agents, an adaptive collaboration of LLMs for medical decision-making. And this is by Yubin Kim, Chan-Woo Park, Haiwan Zhang, Yixi Chan, Xiuhai Xu, Daniel McDuff, Hayanun Lee, Marzia Gassemi, Cynthia Breeziel, and Haewon Park. Phew, quite the team.
That's a mouthful, but a very important paper, I agree.
Yeah, and what I love about this one is that it takes inspiration from how real medical teams work.
Ah, tell me more.
So instead of having one giant AI system trying to do everything, they created a multi-agent framework where different LLMs, large language models, are assigned specific tasks.
It's like having a team of specialized AI doctors working together instead of one lone wolf trying to figure everything out.
Right. Like one LLM might be really good at analyzing lab results, another might be an expert in interpreting imaging scans, and another one might focus on reviewing the patient's medical history.
They each bring their own expertise to the table, and then they share information and collaborate to reach a more comprehensive understanding of the patient's condition.
So it's not just about having a bunch of smart AIs. It's about how they interact and work together that really makes the difference.
It's like in real life, you rarely have one doctor doing absolutely everything for a patient. You have specialists who consult with each other and share their insights.
And that's exactly what MD Agents is trying to replicate
Yeah.
in the AI world.
Fascinating. And did they test the system out? How did it perform?
They did. They tested it on a variety of medical knowledge and diagnosis benchmarks. And get this, it even outperformed human physicians in classifying the complexity of medical cases.
Wow, that's impressive. It really highlights the potential of AI to not only augment individual medical professionals, but also to enhance the way they collaborate as teams.
I know, it's mind-blowing. And it makes you think, if AI can learn to work together so effectively, maybe we humans can learn a thing or two from them
Yeah.
about teamwork and communication.
I like that. Maybe we need to start holding AI-led team building workshops for doctors.
Right. I'd sign up for that. Okay, now let's shift gears a bit and talk about a paper that tackles a very practical challenge in healthcare: cough monitoring,
That's something we can all relate to.
especially during certain times of year, right?
Exactly.
So this paper is called Coffee, a multimodal privacy-preserving cough detection algorithm for the edge, and it's by Stefano Albini, Laura Orlandic, Jonathan Dan, Jerome Thevenot, Camas Tallero, Denisa Andrea Constantinescu, and David Atienza. And this paper really gets into the nitty-gritty of how we can monitor coughs effectively, but also do it in a way that respects patient privacy.
Yeah, because cough monitoring is super valuable for managing a lot of respiratory conditions.
Right, especially for patients who are at home and need to track their symptoms over time. But the problem is, if you're constantly sending audio data to the cloud for analysis, that raises some serious privacy concerns.
Big time. Nobody wants their coughs being recorded and analyzed by who knows who.
Exactly. So that's where Coffee comes in with its clever use of edge computing.
Edge computing, explain that for our listeners.
Basically, instead of relying on a central server to process the data, Coffee brings the AI directly to the device, like a smartphone or a wearable sensor. So the data is analyzed locally, which minimizes the amount of information that needs to be shared.
So it's like having a mini AI doctor right there on your wrist, listening to your coughs and keeping track of any changes.
Precisely. And what's even cooler is that Coffee doesn't just rely on audio.
It does.
Nope. It also incorporates kinematic data, meaning it analyzes how your body moves when you cough.
Wait, so it can tell how you're coughing just by how your body moves?
You got it. This multimodal approach helps improve the accuracy of cough detection, because sometimes the audio might be muffled or distorted.
That makes sense, like if you're coughing into your elbow or something.
Exactly. And what's even more impressive is that they were able to implement Coffee on a low-power microcontroller,
Okay.
which means it's energy efficient and suitable for long-term monitoring without constantly draining the battery.
It's like they thought of everything. Privacy, accuracy, and energy efficiency all in one little package.
They really did.
Ah,
Okay, let's switch gears again and talk about a paper that tackles the issue of data scarcity in medical imaging. This one is called AIAC, Medical AI for Synthetic Imaging, and it's by Pengfei Guo, Kan Zhao, Dong Yang, Ziyu Zhou, Visweshnath, Yucheng Tang, Benjamin Simon, Mason Ballou, Stephanie Harmon, Baris Turkby, and Daguang Shou.
okay. Synthetic imaging. I'm intrigued.
So you know how we were just talking about the challenges of missing data? Well, this paper takes a different approach. Instead of trying to fill in the gaps in existing data, it focuses on creating new data altogether.
Oh, like making up data.
Well, not exactly making it up, but generating it artificially using AI. They call it synthetic data. In this case, they're creating 3D CT images.
So instead of relying on real patient data, which can be hard to come by, expensive to acquire, and raise all sorts of privacy concerns, they're using AI to essentially invent new CT scans.
Exactly. And they're using a technique called diffusion modeling to generate these synthetic images. It's super powerful, and it allows them to create very realistic and detailed medical images without needing to scan a single real patient.
That's wild. So they can basically create custom-made CT scans tailored to whatever they're trying to study or train the AI on.
Pretty much. And they've even incorporated something called ControlNet, which lets them specify the exact anatomical structures they want to include in the image.
So they can be like, okay, I need a CT scan of a lung with a tumor in this specific location, and boom, the AI just whips it up for them.
Exactly. It's really pushing the boundaries of what's possible in medical imaging,
Yeah.
and it has huge implications for training AI models.
Because now you don't need to worry about having enough real patient data. You can just generate as much synthetic data as you need.
And you can avoid all those ethical headaches that come with using real patient data.
It's brilliant. Okay, I'm sold on synthetic data. But what about tabular data? The kind of information we see in spreadsheets and databases. Can AI help us deal with missing data in that realm?
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what Shinrui He, Yukun Ban, Jiaru Zhu, Tiangson Wei, Curtis B. Cook, and Nijing Gui. He tackled in their paper, LLM Forest for Health Tabular Data Imputation. They introduced this framework that leverages the power of, you guessed it, large language models to fill in those gaps in a smart and reliable way.
So instead of just discarding those incomplete records or using some simplistic method to fill in the blanks, we can actually use AI to make intelligent guesses about what those missing values might be.
You got it. And the beauty of LLM Forest is that it's designed to minimize those hallucinations we sometimes see with LLMs, where they make up stuff that doesn't actually make sense.
Oh, yeah. Those hallucinations can be a real problem. It's like the AI is suddenly seeing things that aren't actually there.
Right. But LLM Forest is all about keeping those hallucinations in check, so we can be confident that the imputed data is as accurate and reliable as possible.
And that's crucial for all sorts of things, from analyzing patient outcomes to making predictions about disease risks.
Exactly. If the data is flawed, then the insights we derive from it are going to be flawed as well.
Garbage in, garbage out, as they say.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about missing data, but another challenge we face in the world of medical AI is making sure that the data we do have is actually high quality and trustworthy.
Ah, yes, the data provenance problem.
And that brings us to a paper that dives into the complexities of publicly available medical imaging data sets. This one is called Copycats: The Many Lives of a Publicly Available Medical Imaging Data Set. It's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek title, but it raises some serious issues.
Okay, what are we talking about here?
So this paper is authored by Emilia Jimenez Sanchez, Natalia Rosalia Avlona, David Judolite, Theo Surge, Caroline Vang Larson, Anna Rogers, Hubert Darius Zayach, and Veronica Cheplagina. They're essentially looking at platforms like Kaggle and Hugging Face, where researchers often share medical imaging data sets.
Right, because sharing data is great. It helps accelerate research and collaboration.
Absolutely. But the problem is there's not always a lot of oversight or quality control when it comes to these publicly available data sets.
Oh, so what kind of problems did they find?
Well, they found a whole range of issues, from vague licenses and missing metadata to duplicate data sets, all of which can create real headaches for researchers.
Because if you're training your AI model on a data set that's full of errors or inconsistencies, your results are going to be unreliable, right?
Exactly. And in the world of medicine, unreliable results can have serious consequences.
Absolutely. So it's not just about having access to data, it's about making sure that the data is properly curated, documented, and ethically shared.
It's about creating a culture of data responsibility in medical AI. And that's something that I think we as a field need to work on.
I agree. Data quality is not something we can afford to take lightly.
Okay, so we've talked about data challenges, but now let's move on to a paper that focuses on a specific task in medical image analysis: visual grounding. This one is called Parameter-Efficient Fine-Tuning Medical Multimodal Large Language Models for Medical Visual Grounding, authored by Jinlong He, Pengfei Li, Gang Liu, and Shenjun Zhang.
Visual grounding, huh?
Yeah.
Break that down for me.
So imagine a doctor is looking at a CT scan, and they say, okay, there's a suspicious lesion on the patient's liver. Visual grounding is all about teaching an AI system to understand that statement and actually pinpoint the exact location of that lesion on the image.
So it's like teaching the AI to see what the doctor is seeing and understand the connection between the words and the image.
Exactly. It's about bridging the gap between language and vision in the medical world. And these large language models are proving to be incredibly powerful for this kind of task.
Because they can process both text and images, right?
Precisely. And this paper introduces a new technique called PFMVG that helps to fine-tune those LLMs for the specific task of visual grounding in medical images.
So it's like giving those LLMs specialized training to become medical image detectives.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Because that's essentially what they're doing. They're learning to analyze both the words and the images to pinpoint those critical regions of interest.
And this has huge implications for all sorts of things, from diagnosis to treatment planning.
Absolutely. Okay, now for a final paper in this section, let's talk about how these large language models are being used to analyze something as complex as echocardiography videos. This paper is called EchoFM Foundation Model for Generalizable Echocardiogram Analysis, and it's by Seiken Kim, Pengfei Jian, Sifan Song, Zheng Chen, Yue Li, Hui Ren, Xing Li, Tianming Liu, and Quanzheng Li.
Okay, echocardiograms. Those are pretty intricate, right? Lots of moving parts, literally.
They really are, and analyzing them requires a lot of expertise. But that's exactly what EchoFM is designed to do. It's a foundation model that's specifically trained to understand and analyze those echocardiography videos.
And how much data did they train this thing on?
Get this, they trained it on over 290,000 echocardiography videos. It's mind-boggling.
That's a lot of heartbeats.
It really is. And what's even more impressive is that EchoFM didn't need any explicit labels or annotations to learn how to do this.
So it's like they just showed it a ton of echocardiograms and said, figure it out.
Exactly. And it did. It figured out how to interpret those videos just by observing patterns and relationships in the data. It's like a medical student learning by watching countless hours of surgeries.
And did it actually work? Could it actually analyze those echocardiograms effectively?
It did.
Yeah.
In fact, it outperformed state-of-the-art methods that were specifically designed for echocardiography analysis.
Wow, that's remarkable. It really shows the power of these foundation models to generalize their knowledge across different medical domains.
It's like they're learning a fundamental language of medicine that they can then apply to different specialties and tasks.
It's like having a universal medical translator that can make sense of all the different types of data we use to understand human health.
That's a great way to put it. And it's incredibly exciting to think about the possibilities that this opens up for the future of medical AI.
It really is. But I think we need to move on to our next section because we've got even more fascinating papers to discuss.
You're right. Stay tuned, everyone, because we're just getting started.
Okay, so we've talked about AI diagnosing heart conditions, but what about AI as a teacher?
Ah, yes. Let's bring back the topic of medical education and that paper we mentioned earlier, the potential of LLMs in medical education, generating questions and answers for qualification exams.
The one by Yunqi Zhu, Wen Tang, Ying Sun, and Tubing Yang. I'm really interested in how AI could be used to create better learning experiences for future doctors.
Me too. Imagine having an AI that can generate personalized study materials tailored to each student's strengths and weaknesses.
Or even create those super tough exam questions that really make you think.
Exactly. And that's what this paper explored, using LLMs to create high-quality exam questions and answers.
But how do we know if the AI is actually teaching the right stuff?
That's a great question. And the researchers were very aware of that concern. They actually had medical experts evaluate the AI-generated content to ensure it was accurate and met the standards of medical education.
That's reassuring. It's not just about automating the process, it's about using AI to enhance the expertise of human educators.
Well said. And that's something we'll see even more of as we continue our deep dive. So stay tuned for the final part of our exploration, where we'll delve into some of the ethical and practical challenges of integrating AI into healthcare. And we're back for the final part of our medical AI deep dive. It's been quite a journey so far, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. We've seen some truly mind-blowing advancements. But as with any powerful technology, there are always ethical and practical considerations to keep in mind.
Right. It's not enough to just develop these amazing AI systems. We have to think about how they're actually going to be used in the real world.
And that's especially true in healthcare, where the stakes are so high, we're dealing with people's lives and well-being here.
Exactly. So one area where those ethical and practical considerations really come into play is online medical consultations.
Ah, yes, where patients are sending text messages and often blurry photos to their doctors.
Exactly. It's becoming more and more common, but it also creates some unique challenges for AI. Because how do you teach an AI system to make sense of those often messy and incomplete bits of information?
Well, that's exactly what Zhangpu Li, Chengong Zhu, Suxu Ma, Jiting Yang, Chen Du, Yu Baotang, Zhenji Cao, Ning Zhang, Shixin Lai, Roisum Lin, Yuan Ni, Xingzi Sen, Jing Shao, GQ, Kai Zhang, and Mei Han explored in their paper ZLM3, Zero-Shot Enhancement of Vision Language Alignment via In-Context Information and Multi-Turn Multimodal Medical Dialogue.
Okay, that's a mouthful. But it sounds like they're tackling a really important problem.
They are. So ZLM3 is all about improving the alignment between what the patient is saying in those text messages and what's shown in the images they're sending.
So it's like helping the AI to connect the dots between the words and the pictures, even if those pictures aren't exactly high-resolution masterpieces.
Precisely. And the way it works is pretty clever. It uses an LLM to extract keywords from the text conversation, which then provides context for a visual grounding model to focus on the relevant parts of the image.
So it's like having an AI assistant that can say, okay, the patient is talking about a rash on their arm. Let's zoom in on that part of the picture and see what we can see.
Exactly. It helps the AI to filter out the noise and focus on what's important, which is crucial for making an accurate assessment in those online consultations.
And this could be a game changer for telemedicine, especially as more and more people rely on it for healthcare.
Absolutely. It could make online consultations more efficient, more accurate, and more accessible to people who might not have easy access to in-person care.
Now, speaking of accessibility, I want to bring back that paper we discussed earlier about coffee, the privacy-preserving cough detection algorithm.
Ah, yes, the one by Stefano Albini, Lara Orlandic, Jonathan Dan, Jerome Favenot, Tomas Tejero, Denisa Andrea Constantinescu, and David Atienza.
That's the one. And it really struck me how they managed to combine cutting-edge AI with a real sensitivity to patient privacy.
Because cough monitoring can be so valuable for managing respiratory conditions, but nobody wants their coughs being recorded and sent to some giant server in the cloud.
Exactly. So Coffee uses that edge computing approach we talked about earlier, processing the data right there on the device.
Which means the patient's data stays private and secure.
And they even incorporated that kinematic data, analyzing how the body moves during a cough, to make the detection even more accurate.
It's a fantastic example of how we can design AI systems that are both effective and respectful of people's privacy.
And it also empowers patients to take a more active role in managing their own health, which is something I'm always excited to see.
Me too. It's about putting the power of information and technology directly into the hands of the people who need it most.
Okay, so we've talked about privacy, but we also can't forget about that ever-present challenge of missing data. And I want to give another shout out to Jinrui He, Yukun Ban, Jeru Zhu, Tianxin Wei, Curtis B. Cook, and Jinguri He for their work on LLM Forest.
Ah, yes, that clever framework for imputing missing data in tabular healthcare datasets.
It's like having an AI detective that can piece together those missing pieces of the puzzle, which is so crucial for accurate analysis and decision-making.
And for training reliable AI models, we need to make sure the data itself is as accurate and complete as possible. Otherwise, we're just setting ourselves up for failure.
Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Exactly. And LLM Forest gives us a powerful tool for ensuring that the data we're using is as high quality as it can be.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, from diagnosing diseases to generating synthetic data to educating future doctors. It's amazing to see the impact that AI is already having on healthcare.
It really is, and this is just the beginning. We're only scratching the surface of what's possible.
And as we move forward, it's going to be crucial to have these conversations about ethics, about privacy, about responsibility. We need to make sure that we're developing and using AI in a way that truly benefits everyone.
Absolutely. It's about using this technology to empower patients, support healthcare providers, and ultimately create a healthier future for all of us.
I couldn't have said it better myself. So, to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of medical AI.
We hope you learned something new, and we hope you'll continue to follow along as this field continues to evolve.
Stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay healthy. Until next time.